Oh, this is always that fun moment where I have no idea if I'm live. So, okay, I'm gonna wait and see if anything shows up. Videos. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. There I am. Okay, I actually think I'm live. Yay. That's always the fun moment. Now I'm going to kill. There we go. Hi, everyone. This is that clunky transition to live that I do every single week because of the delay. So tell me when you all are here. I'm going to bring this screen up a second. Hit me with a comment when you are there. Okay. Hello. Welcome back to I don't know what week we're in now. What week am I in? Quarantine live what? Quarantine live 13, I think. I think I'm in 13. Okay, waiting for the chat to appear. So I'm not seeing any with chat yet. I'm not going to bring on my guest until there's okay, Sunny. Hi from Northern California. Yay. Okay, now y'all are here. Excellent. Oh, Pam's there. Hi, Candy. Okay, so there's always that crazy delay. So I have to kill time until you show up. And I know you're here. And by the way, I learned the reason I can't edit the video to clip out the awkward beginning is because then they take away live chat. And I really love the live chat. So I just leave the awkward beginning because, you know, I'm super profesh, as we've discussed. Hello from Arizona, hello from Calgary, hello from Montreal, from Massachusetts, from California, from Michigan. You all are rolling in, very exciting. So I am going to announce my special guest. Oh, more Canada, more Missouri. Okay, I'm going to check in with you guys in a second. But I'm so excited to bring you guys a special guest of mine who is going to talk about all sorts of interesting things. And I'm going to ask her to tell you secrets of unpublished designs. She doesn't know that yet, but I am. So everyone, welcome. Let's see if this works on one try. Julia Farwell-Clay. And the crowd goes wild. Oh, look. And there she is. Okay, are you unmuted?
Am I?
Oh, you are.
Okay.
Yay. Hello, look at all the people. So we've got Kansas, Richmond, Washington State, Alberta, Virginia, Ireland, Boston, Missouri, British Columbia, Pennsylvania, more Arizona, more Michigan, more Canada, Montreal, Massachusetts. Oh my gosh. There's people from everywhere. So do you have, are you able to see the comments up?
So how do I find you on YouTube if I have you so I can see the comments thing?
So if you're on my channel, you'll just see one that says live, and that's us. So it just pops up at the beginning.
Oh,
Gloria's saying, hi, Julia. Pam's waving at you. Hi from Kansas. Hi from Richmond. All right, folks are here from everywhere. So hello.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Live, but I can't see where it says how I see it.
Oh, click it so it's full window, and then you'll see all the comments going on the side under top chat. If not, I can just read them to you.
Yeah, just read them to me.
I can just tell you who's working.
Too much time technically catching up to you. You sophisticat you.
So hello.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you here. And I have to, before we even start, I have to show you the bears. Okay, I have it plugged in.
Definitely the bears.
This little bit of delightfulness. Okay, I'm going to hit play. So yesterday, I hear a little rustling in the woods, and I think that it's, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. There's the baby. So I think it's the deer and that lives in our property and her fawns. But no, I look and it's this big, beautiful bear and 3 cubs.
Is it a black bear?
Or brown, I don't know. I think, I don't know who lives here in the woods. But it's funny because I put this on Instagram, and everyone on Instagram was freaking out about like, I hope you're inside the house, which I wasn't, I was in my yard. But there's like one moment where I think it might have been an earlier, like the longer part of the video, where the mama bear just turns and kind of looks directly at me. And then you see the baby bear get up on its hind legs, like, what are you looking at? And the bear just looks right at me, sees that I'm not moving. I'm not walking towards you. I'm just sitting in my own yard. And he's like, and keeps walking.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you.
Oh, I love bears.
Any bears walking through your backyard these days?
Not my backyard,
Oh, okay. Sorry.
no. I got snapping turtles going, from the river to someplace, I don't know, but very slowly they may make their way across the backyard. About one a
Oh.
year. I think it's just the one snapping turtle, but yeah.
Oh, I don't have those.
And I have tons of birds, tons and tons of birds.
Oh yeah, our bird population is pretty good. So adorable from North Carolina, Green Bay, Florida, Atlanta. Oh my gosh. Hey, what are you knitting?
So a crescent shawl.
Oh, I'm like wearing your colors right now.
Yes, you are. We didn't even like coordinate this, did we?
No.
Oh.
Oh wait, is that the crescent shawl that has the secret that maybe I'm not supposed to say?
The secret is that crescent shawls always betray you and you always end up with that funny little hump. And there are several clever ways that people have found to get around it. But the thing is, you can fix the cast on, and there are like several really good fixes on Ravelry, but that's not the end of the problem. Because even though you may fix this cast on, you then still have the problem further out. Because then you end up with knitting back and forth. So you have to cut a fine line between like a semicircle shawl and a straight across shawl. You've got to find that equilibrium in order to keep in lace shawls, lace crescents often solve this problem just because by virtue of lace.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The problem is that if you just if you fix your cast on in garter stitch and then you block it out, you end up at the outside edge of your crescent having to really distort your stitches in order to make that crescent fit on the blocking board. So there needs to be increases at a particular rate, and I figured it out.
And might there be a pattern being published at some point?
There will be a pattern. So this was originally a pattern that I did for Barocco Portfolio 2. It's the first shawl I ever designed because the creative director said to me, she said, "Oh, all the slots are taken because you took too long to tell me what it is that you're going to knit. So you get a shawl."
you realize that sounded a little bit like Oprah. And you get a shawl, and you get a shawl, and you get a shawl.
Well, sometimes when you participate in your own company collections, that's kind of what it's like. It's like, you are going to do a pullover with color work for me. Thank you very much. So yeah, because the creative director is the curator, and they know they know why they hired you. They know what they expect from you, and then they tell you after you've said yes.
Now, someone had asked a question on Ask Patty a while ago about this issue, about the garter tab. Oh no, sorry. No, I'm lying. It wasn't specifically about the tab. That was wrong. The question was about a garter edge for a shawl, that they were knitting a shawl whose the edge, the last couple of stitches on either side, the border was garter. And of course the garter was pulling in.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, here's a really stupid, easy solution. Are you sitting down? Garter is made by knitting every row. Garter is made by purling every row. Purl it instead, because that uses more yarn and the stitches are taller. She was like, what? Yeah.
And did that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a stupider solution, but yeah.
I usually throw a yarn over in there and then drop it. I mean, so my garter is like a little distorted. It's a little elongated. But it's a way of getting more yarn into the sections, right, to make them bigger.
But people never think about the fact that garter's all purl.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the blanket that I did for Mason Dixon Knitting, which is the two complementary stripes that go in to each other. That's combining. So this color from the right, and I'm not mirrored, right? You get this. This is my right hand. Is that what? Yeah.
I don't know, because what I see and what's on the YouTube are different.
Yeah, I think this is my right hand because I taught this way last week. So this better be the right way, the correct way. So the yarn coming in from the right is knit garter, and the yarn coming in from the left is purl garter, so that they line up. Because anyway, I don't have it.
I don't think I knew that
Yeah, it's
about that pattern.
yeah, just to show you so that we all know what I'm talking about, because this is actually, it's this one and the ease book that I did for,
Yeah.
so it's this pattern here. And
Oh,
this,
weird.
yeah, these squares are complementary. This is just, it's a blanket square. You knit 20 of them. And it's across the row, it's knit garter and purl garter, but you come in from the outside edges, right? So so that they don't misalign, you have to do purl garter and knit garter.
You are a sneaky little minx. Now, Julia,
I do.
I'm
sneaky.
You gave a talk I don't remember how many years ago. Julia gave a talk on something that I knew that much about, and I was hanging on every freaking word. A certain style of knitting. Do you recall?
Salish, the Coast Salish knitters of British Columbia, and the Curation knit sweater tradition.
Because we have British Columbia folks in the thread right here.
Hi.
So yeah, that was so interesting. Do you want to give like a brief summation?
Really quickly.
Yeah.
I
understand it was an hour talk.
Right. So like a lot of people from the Pacific Northwest, Curation sweaters, were rooted in my brain. And in fact, they may be entirely the reason why I designed knitting. Because my father's a pulp and paper worker, and we lived all over the United States and Canada growing up. And so, but this Curation sweater, which he picked up when we went up to Vancouver Island, and we lived in Tacoma at the time. He was working for the Boise Cascade Mill there. And we went up to the British Columbia, and Dad picked up a really, really beautiful zippered Curation sweater, and it became his winter coat until my parents became snowbirds and retired to the South. And because my dad worked in pulp and paper mills, it smelled like rotten eggs and cigars, which is because he smoked a cigar in the car on the way home every day. So he would come to the house, and he would have to enter through the basement because the sweater smelled so bad, right? So, and after, I don't know, 20 years of this poor sweater, we actually buried it in the backyard like a family pet. It was like, because it was so important and so significant a part of everyone's life. It was really emotional. And my dad said, let's have a funeral for it. And I was like, because when he moved south, because he knew he was never going to wear it again.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So I always sort of took it for granted. But as a grown up, I decided to, when I started knitting stuff to share, because I always knit for myself. But when I started knitting and writing things down, and Amy Singer from Knitty said, send me something. So the first thing that popped into my brain was this sweater, was a sweater that I was going to knit in homage to that particular sweater. But I realized I was treading heavily on somebody else's traditions as a white woman living on the East Coast. While I came to my attachment to it, I knew nothing about the tradition. I felt earnest about it myself, but I really wanted to know what it was that I was doing. And so I became something of a self-taught scholar on the Curation tradition. And I read books, and thank God for the internet. I actually wanted to go to Duncan, British Columbia, to spend some time there at the culture center, but things keep happening. Kids, for example. But it's this beautiful and sad thing that is the result of contact culture between Scottish settlers coming just willy-nilly to the British Columbia and the indigenous people there, the Coast Salish, with their own thousands-year-long fiber tradition. They were weavers and collectors of wool, and they made these they spun the yarn out of materials that they foraged from mountain goats, and they they had these dogs, these fiber dogs that look a little bit like Spitz dogs. Yeah,
That part blew my freaking mind.
yeah,
I didn't know anything about that.
right. That I mean, they've dug up at archaeological sites on the Pacific coast there, knitting or spinning paraphernalia, whirls and stuff, that are thousands of years old, and yeah, so that there's this magnificent tradition, along with all the other traditions. But the thing that's particularly heartbreaking is that the Hudson's Bay Company came in and said, "Oh, you guys all love these blankets that your women folk spend years making, and they enter into apprenticeships and they become sort of special people, elevated people by status in your family groups and your language groups. But we can shortcut that. We can just sell you a blanket, bam." Which completely kneecapped the status structure of all of these people with these incredible weaving traditions. But it's a transferable skill, and the Scottish missionaries also thought, well, they weave, we can teach them to knit, and in the process of Christianizing them. So I mean, all this sort of gets all mixed up, and the end result is this beautiful sweater. Which of course had its own sort of series of crimes and offenses and predations by people trying to make money, because we can take that from them, the knitters, and we can give them a pittance, and then we can turn around and we can sell it for much more profit.
Yeah, I loved the part of the talk, because it was PowerPoint, so there were slides and there were images where you showed all these different advertisements from different, I can't remember some of the brands, but that was really interesting, because I always think that's fascinating how there was a great what was it? Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of the exhibit. But there was a great exhibit in DC, and it was just about the way American Indians are portrayed in film, in popular media, films, television. But the section on commercials was really interesting.
Oh yeah,
That was fascinating.
yeah.
And then they had stuff about sports and like the various sports logos, like the Chicago, the Blackhawks, the
Right, or the Cleveland Indians.
right, and they showed like why the Chicago Blackhawks were sort of not condemned, because its image was a very realistic, it was based on photograph, like a very realistic image, and it was never cartoony, and it never had like wacky mascots or anything. And so they also showed like what were images that sort of got by because people were like, well, it's sort of a almost respectful image versus the very cartoony images. It was all that pop culture stuff is always really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
There was an exhibit that I didn't get to see called China Through the Looking Glass, that was about, well, as the name implies, it was like all about how Chinese art and culture got filtered through, the Western eye. And that was at the Met. That was supposed to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew nothing about anything in your talk. It was so fascinating.
Well, that's kind of the point of the talk, right?
I know.
Actually, yeah.
But people think that if you knit for a living, you know everything about knitting, but it is such a giant topic.
Mm-hmm.
There's so.
My tagline on Twitter is knitting is bigger than you think. The knitting world is bigger than you think.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I follow you on Twitter. I didn't know that. Yeah, just there's so many traditions. There's so many different corners of it.
Right.
Pam is saying, can you spell the name, please?
Cow. Cowichan.
All right. Do you mean the band? Oh, and then someone, LIR said, do you mean the band of Salish? Just look up Salish going west from,
The Coast Salish.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
They're Salish. Yeah, it's all about language bands, what they call what Hollywood would call tribes. It's according to bands of language of common language speakers. Yeah, and in Canada, Native Americans are called First Nations peoples.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, it was funny. I think I was talking to, I can't remember whether I was talking to Romy about this, but about oh no, I was talking about a knitting group that used to meet at a yarn store that I managed, and they were a blind knitters group, and I learned a lot of cool tricks like counting row gauge by counting the reverse stockinette side, because they would take their needle and be able to pick.
A lot easier.
Yeah, pick it there. But anyway, the first time I worked with them, they all like made fun of me because every time I said the words see or look, I'd get like all, seeing person uncomfortable and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean see. And, and finally they were like, okay, you need to simmer down. We see and we look, we just don't do it the same way, but like you're allowed to use those words. It just really annoys us when people like, feel like they can't use the word see. And it reminded me of, I used to work at a theater company called the Remains Theater Company many years ago in Chicago. And they had part of their mission was this big outreach program, and they worked with all sorts of different groups. And one of the theater groups they worked with was an Indian group, and they really did not like they didn't like the term Native American. It really bugged them. And then the one guy, I remember this one guy who was, particularly, he was a stand-up. So first of all, like he has an edge to him already, and he was naturally crabby. So he has a naturally funny way of communicating things. But he basically said, kind of like, mighty white of you for like, thanks so much for letting us know we're Native.
Yeah.
We don't need that label. And if you all have trouble and get it mixed up with people from India, not really our problem. So it was just like a funny.
Well, and a friend of mine here in Massachusetts, she's Massapequa, and that's what she wants to be called. She doesn't want to be called Native American or First Nations or anything. She wants to be Massapequa. I mean, I get to meet people where they are comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's a show called United Shades of America, and he always says, when in doubt, just ask someone like what they'd like to be called. No need to get stressed out, or like if you're worried that saying see or look is going to make someone uncomfortable, just ask. Just ask. It's really not that complicated. And the other thing that always made me laugh was the theater group that was deaf. They also really didn't like hearing impaired. They're like, we're not hearing impaired, we're deaf. There's a difference. So like, why are you so uncomfortable with the word deaf? We can't hear, we're deaf. Yeah. Just like, you guys are all so, anyway.
Hung up on sound, yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was funny. So we do have someone, I'm trying to scroll back to the person from British Columbia, because I want to see if it said where they were from. We have lots of Canadians here today.
Yay!
And someone from Ireland. Very exciting. Anyway, I just thought that was really interesting because I love.
Anyway, any Maritimers on hanging out right now?
I don't know. Any Maritimers, folks?
Is there a delay? There's a delay, right?
Oh yeah, there's about a 30-second delay. Gloria says.
I grew up in Rothsay, New Brunswick.
Oh, Gloria says on knitting, I've been a fiber artist and weaving and in weaving transitioning to knitting. The learning curve of knitting technique is huge. Still studying after a year and a half. Okay, see, it all depends on what you do first. Because to me, the learning curve to weaving, like learning how to warp that thing, that just did not stick in my head. I'm like, can I just cast something on? That seems so much easier.
Yeah.
Like warping a loom, holy kermoly, that took forever.
Yeah. You should follow Sarah Sweat. Do you know Sarah Sweat? Have you
No.
You run into her?
No.
Sarah is she lives in Idaho, and I came to know Sarah because of Melanie Fallick's book, Knitting in America.
Uh-huh. Oh, I love that book.
And she was wearing this sweater, this sort of kimono style sweater, or I don't know, non-closing style sweater that she had spun the yarn for and knit herself, and it's called Rising Kestrels. And it's just this, and she's also stunning herself, and a Silver sister. And Sarah in this book, I mean, she's just this majestic presence in this book. And I guess Melanie also had her model other things, because Melanie, was like, oh, I need you a lot. So, but Sarah was at Harvard her freshman year, her first semester, and came down the stairs of her dorm and saw like one of those tear sheets with the phone numbers on it. And I think the way she tells the story is like, it said like wanted, like shepherd apprentice. And she tore off the number and she quit Harvard. Like she left. She was like, I'd much rather do this. And she went off and became a fiber artist for the rest of her life. And she's currently going through, she does these amazing little tapestries. She spins her own everything. And I want to say yarn, but she makes threads and yarns, and she does embroidery silks, and she's currently spinning recycled coffee filters into fiber that she then uses in her, she makes these little she's making these little teeny tiny books that are illustrations of like little stories. They're like little haikus, or like little fiber haikus. And her Instagram is just amazing.
Wait, can you explain the coffee filter situation?
You got to talk to Sarah, because that was her idea. I mean, I know Judith McKenzie started spinning the paper from patterns, like, because she works at a recycle or repurposing center in Forks.
Judith can spin anything into anything. That woman's brilliant. Oh, you froze for a second. Oh, there you're back.
Oh yeah. I mean, Sarah can do anything. Oh yeah, it says I'm unstable.
Don't you I love that. I find it very judgmental. When I first started doing the YouTube lives, I mean, these guys know, every week I tried something new. I would try like OBS, and then I tried the different streaming platforms.
Yeah.
And like 1 week, my voice and my video would be totally out of sync. 1 week, and I kept getting the notices that my internet is unstable. But did I remember? I try to remember to turn off my time machine in the background. Yeah, I did. Yeah, Judith. I feel like Judith can spin air somehow into fiber, because she's just that insanely good.
So Judith is specifically, she's very much now, and Stephanie and Judith will, I don't know if they're lurking or if they'll see this later, but my understanding is that Judith comes to spinning specifically as a weaver, and that is the vocabulary specifically that she is pursuing. I mean, not everything, and I've taken classes with Judith. I was lucky enough to take, I got a SOAR session with Judith, and it was magical. And it really was everything that you would expect it to be. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but I'm saying that Sarah's vocabulary is different. She's also a knitter. And, but right now she's working very much in this like little, I mean, it's almost like installation art or something. I mean, she's making these little pieces of art that are really amazing. And
will you text me her Instagram handle, and I'll put it, because people are asking for it, and I'll put it in the YouTube notes.
Yes.
Speaking of the YouTube notes, is it super premature, the shawl that you're working on? Like, is that not going to be published for a while?
The process of figuring this out has been, I wish my brain were like Bristol's, where she just sits down and does the quadratic equation and outspits a knitting pattern, or however it is that she does it. I am a trial and error knitter. I will knit it and it will fail. And then this is my 4th draft, I think, of this. So
I'm a figure it first, knit it second gal.
Right. So, yeah. So, like this sweater here. This sweater took me almost 1.5 years to finish, right?
Oh, I love that one.
Right. So I'm finally sitting down to write it out. And I shared this on Instagram. And
that one's not even written yet?
No.
Dude.
I have photographs for it. Right before COVID, I went to see Gail Zucker.
Ah,
And took really good
best.
pictures, really good pictures of it. That's the back.
Gail photographed this one that I'm wearing, not on me, on a model much cuter than me.
Yeah, I think I was there. I think she was photographing
No way.
things. Yeah, in her little studio in
Oh,
not
yeah,
her.
it was an indoor shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. It was nice. But this is, but this was a process of, I actually did this as a shawl, this section. It was just something I was experimenting with. It's a short row,
Oh.
like you go to the end of this, and then you turn around and then you knit past it with the background color. And I ended up with this really sort of wonderful elongated isosceles triangle. And then it occurred to me that it might make a fun scarf for a man. And then as I was knitting it, I was like, oh my God, it's a yoke. It's the perfect proportions. It's the Elizabeth Zimmerman proportions of the first, half of a proper yoke shaping. And so I just turned it into a yoke sweater. Now, it took me a lot of swatching to make it work and to also make it work across sizes, because that's the thing.
Right. That's why I have to do it. I have to do the pure math first, hit print, because so many, like if I got attached to a certain, stitch pattern, like a cable or lace, and then did it and then found out, oh no, it's ungradable, I'd be so bummed. So yeah, I self-edit. I have to self-censor in order for it to grade. When it comes to like wide repeats and everything.
Right.
Like cables and stuff.
Yeah.
You have to kind of make your decision, like this thing that I'm swatching right now. I had to figure the neck shaping on it first, because because as per usual, I've decided to make my life incredibly complicated for the fall video sweater class, which is going to be so delayed. So not only do I want it to figure out something that can be a cardigan or a pullover, but I want it to be unisex. But there are certain proportions that are different.
Yes.
And so, and that really, that all is about the neck. So the other thing that gets tricky is for a V-neck, for a cardigan that's a V-neck, you can have a very narrow neck. But for it, you can't share the same sweater back and just have different fronts if it's going to be a pullover, because then you can't have back neck shaping. So then like sometimes the things that you can't do leads you to the solutions that you can do. So I was like, oh, I can't do back neck shaping. It's got to go straight across, because then I have to figure out how I can write the same back that could be good for a V-neck, shawl, cardigan, or a pullover with still shawl, but the little crossover that's more based off of, not quite a crew neck, but based off like shallow, like a shallow, anyway. So then I went into the saddleback rabbit hole. So now it's a whole thing. So now it's saddleback, and you already know I'm doing the pocket. There's my pocket.
I love that pocket.
That's my pocket swatch. Anyway. So now, okay, so now I am going to get in trouble. So this sweater is not done. So is it a bad thing if I ask you about a newer sweater?
Wait, the embroidered one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Ask me all about that, because
so when's that bad boy happening?
Raise money for the Equal Justice Initiative with my gin sales, and I'm not a big seller. I don't sell lots of patterns. People I'm kind of a respectable seller of patterns, but not, so I'm trying. I thought maybe I could sell it. So yeah, I want people to buy it so I can send them a nice check.
And so when's that happening?
Well, so the sweater is one. So the sweater is finished. It is called Wool Blossoms.
I was going to ask you if it had a name.
Yeah. So it's called Wool Blossoms, and it's embroidered. And I It's a dark sweater, so I'm going to hold it up and then I'm going to instantly disappear because it's really dark. I did not.
Yeah. Okay. So just now I can see it.
Right. So,
Okay.
right.
Amazeballs.
It's a yoke sweater that is, when I knit the sweater, so all I wanted was a sweater that I could embroider. So it's a nice blank canvas yoke sweater. But it's really nicely fit and it solves that problem, you know, on yoke sweaters where you get like a little too much fabric in the back. You know, Instagram loves flat lays for yokes, but the problem is that doesn't really fit a lot of people the way that it fits the tabletop. I mean, you start messing around, but you need less fabric on the back than you do in the front. So I solved that with this sweater. So it's a really good blank canvas. And then I did the embroidery. And so the pattern is for both the sweater and the tutorials for the embroidery. There's both a video tutorial and a photographic tutorial. And I think I will be teaching it virtually at a future Vogue Knitting Live event, maybe, fingers crossed. But yeah, I've been messing around with embroidery. I really love it. It's really fun.
Ooh. Oh, I love the oh wait, hold that up. The second from the top, the 2-color crisscross dealie.
Isn't that
the yellow and the pink?
This one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's.
Why am I pointing at the screen like you can see me? That was stupid. I'm like that.
No, that one.
That one.
Like where the bakery case. I want no, not that one. The cupcake. That one.
Ooh, Rosemary says amazing. Ooh,
Yeah.
Blossoms. Candy says Blossoms amazing. Well, Blossom says amazing. Yeah.
Yay. Yay, yay, yay.
Oh, now I have a question here. LI. So, okay, LIR. Is that Long Island Railroad? Because that's, sorry, someone's YouTube name is LIR, which if you are from the East Coast, that is, the LIR is the Long Island Railroad.
Yes.
Patty with an I. What is it with everyone misspelling my name lately? I have not seen my name spelled right in the longest time. Patty, Patty Lyons, Patty, says, do you utilize test knitters for different sizes? So I don't, because sizing is really and truly math. So I come from a publishing world originally. So a lot of knitwear designers come from different area. Like some knitwear designers came from knitting themselves and playing around with things and then designing for themselves. And then they entered grading and used sample knitters, test knitters to test their pattern to see if it works. And what's great about having the time frame to be able to do that is to actually be able to get a lot of photographs of different sizes, which I do love. Right. So I didn't really call them test knitters because they weren't testing a pattern. The pattern was fully tech edited.
Like
and
preview knitters.
Yeah, they were preview knitters. I did that for Harbor Springs. So by the time it launched, I had pictures in all different sizes. But so I do like the idea of preview knitting. You can't really, I mean, it's really hard to like, if you're doing a pattern of this complexity where everything's been thought out and you do the grading based on a lot of your own research and your own sizing charts, which I have my own that I use. That's a combination of some British standards and some other, and just anecdotal from the years of designing, where you learn a lot about your knitters. Where you there's an expression like when 3 people tell you you're drunk, lie down. So when 3 knitters say that they adapted the upper arm measurement because they liked this size and it fit them in the chest and it fit them in the crossback, but the upper arm is too tight, you start to go, I think I'll look at my upper arm standards, So anyway, so I don't really, by the time a pattern of this complexity, like you have to have all that stuff figured out already. So you wouldn't test it to be able to like change it because that ship has sailed. But I do like preview knitters from time to time. So that's my answer. Julia, how about you?
Well, so I feel like, so first of all, I don't do preview knitters or test knitters because I have really I have a lot of faith in my tech editing process. I have a tech editor and I have a second reader. And I get very few problems with my patterns. I hardly ever have had to reissue patterns because of issues. I sometimes will, I might make a note on the page if something is a problem. I need to go back and redo a very, very early sweater of mine called Mork, because I do think it needs to be updated. But mostly I don't have problems with my sizes. I don't need someone to knit it in order to prove to me that the math works, because I know
Right.
it works. And because I
How I
do a
feel.
lot of that myself. I mean, that's kind of why sometimes I'll decide that a pattern has to be 4 inches difference between one size and the other versus 2, right? Things like that. But also I'm going to sell, honestly, if I were more popular and I could rely on sales, but if I'm going to sell 14 copies of a pattern, I'm going to give away 7 of those to test knitters, and those people would have knitted I'm like, and I've been burned. I tried test knitting at one point when it seemed to be emerging as the way to go, but it's really, I mean, I think it's a lot about hot right now and getting on that front page and making a splash and to get into people's queues, which is kind of self-perpetuating, which hasn't really ever worked out for me, because when I had test knitters, people took the pattern and then I never heard from them again. I mean, I really, literally. And I also, I mean, I seem to have bad luck in that way. And I take that so hard. It's just
Aw.
a little bit crushing. So
Yeah, it can be tricky.
yeah, it's a little tricky. And I really admire people like, I have friends who are really super organized and have it all worked out and have a calendar and are, have this, they've already got their test knitters in the queue for midwinter. They're already got patterns, they're months and months ahead, and they've got their yarn and they're testing, and they've got a dedicated group that they can rely on and everything like that. And I don't know. I just haven't been organized, lucky, encouraged in that way.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing you mentioned tech editing, and we have a question here. Please elaborate what preview knitting is versus test knitting and sample knitting. So I think one of the controversies a little bit and the stigma around the word test knitting is because is when it's used instead of tech editing.
As uncompensated labor.
Yeah. So we professional designers have done a lot of research and work and learned how to grade and do all the math. And then we hire and pay a tech editor to not only double check the math, because there's virtually never any mistakes in my math, but every once in a while, it's more about like, maybe if you said it this way, like Edie Ekman used to teach a class called How to Say It, which is about the words of pattern writing.
Right.
So the words of pattern writing are interesting because they've gotten more words, and more words doesn't always make it better. So I think one of the controversy over this concept of test knitting is when people do it instead of paying a tech editor. So it's like a cachet, like, oh, I tested this pattern and I found all these mistakes, and but it shouldn't be instead of tech editing.
Right.
So when people say preview knitting, it's designers that have paid for a tech editor, the pattern's finished, they've paid for a copy editor, it's laid out, there aren't grammatical mistakes, blah, blah, blah. And they give the pattern away for free to certain people in exchange for knitting it and then being able to use the photographs on the RAV page on the day you launch.
Right. There's definitely an obligation when you preview knit to be there, ready to go, patterns available, boom, add your project to the pattern so that pattern shows up on Ravelry with like 14 finished versions of it. Here are the pictures, various sizes, done, dusted. Wow, right? So it's Yeah. And also that kind of energy. And I think the algorithm loves that because it pushes those patterns right to the front of Hot Right Now.
Right.
Although I'm
And
not exactly sure how that works out, but
And the difference between sample knitter, because you asked what's the difference between test, preview, and sample. Sample knitter is different. Sample knitters is a professional knitter. So
yeah.
you hire a sample knitter, like when I used to do magazine work, and I worked at one insane time of my life for 8 different magazines at the same time. That was sheer chaos. So before I started really honing in on self-publishing and creating fewer patterns per year with deeper support. So I used to do like, 20 patterns a month. It was just a machine, like a factory,
Yeah.
And I worked with 8 different magazines, and I worked for yarn companies, and then you're just grinding them out. And I remember once this one yarn company, usually when there's a call for submission, you submit a bunch of things and they pick one thing. But
Lucky.
they didn't, I submitted like 8 things and they picked 7 at once. So I was like, ah.
And you said yes.
So then you're hiring sample knitters, and the sample knitters are knitting the pattern. So a test knitter gets the pattern for free. They can use whatever yarn they want, and they're knitting a sweater for themselves that they keep. A sample knitter has to hit a certain deadline, which is usually like 2 weeks to finish a garment, and they return the garment to you. So they don't keep it. They are paid, and those are professional knitters, and they have to knit fast.
So the magazine gives them the yarn for free. They
Right.
they knit it and they do not stray unless they see a really big problem, but they report directly to you,
Right.
and they don't get to keep it.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. So it says, what about using Cal for testing a pattern? So my Cals are not for testing. So again, I don't need to test the patterns. So the knit alongs that I run are video sweater classes, and they are professionally tech edited already. They're not for people are paying good money to be part of that knit along. They're not testing a pattern. So that's me, that's my business model. Other people might do it totally differently, but there's a legal term called reasonable expectation. So when people pay me money for my pattern, they have a reasonable expectation that it is a pattern that is going to work.
Right.
So, and that's the reputation that I have. So what I love seeing is I just posted a little gallery of some of the finished garments of Palm Canyon knit along, of all different shapes and size knitters. And someone said, oh, and every single one fits them great. And I'm like, yep, that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is totally the goal. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So that's just me. That's just my thing. Her blog cartoon. Oh, Sarah, someone's talking about Sarah. Her blog cartoon self art is really fun.
Yeah, right. She also is a marvelous cartoonist, illustrator. And the strength of that shows up in how she designs the things that she weaves, is because she does the cartoons for her weaving and then reproduces them in her woven work.
I'm so excited. You're so finger on the pulse. Julia, like anytime I don't know, so I'm bad. I don't know anybody. Like everyone assumes I know everybody, but I don't. I'm sort of a solitary person. So like my friend Carol Skowski knows everyone. Anytime I don't know somebody, like you emailed me once or texted me and was like, oh, did you see so-and-so's newsletter? And I'm like, I don't know who that is, because I don't know anybody. Julia. Right. And then I said it to Carol, and Carol's like, oh, of course I know who that is. So you are like the great curator of everything. You're like so on it.
Well, part of that is because I chalk this up to my being an extrovert, right? And it's not anything except that when I go to an event, and like say you go to TNNA and you network all day long, and then 5 o'clock comes and the show floor closes, and you have to go to your room and lie down because your feet hurt so much.
Yes.
Bar. Because I want to talk to people. I'm the same way at teaching events. Like when I'm done teaching, I want to like sit with the students and talk, and I want to find out about like what they bought at the marketplace over lunch break. Like what's cool and what do people like, and that's in Instagram. I'm the same way on Instagram. I mean, I don't follow a ton of people on Instagram, but I click through on a lot of stuff. And so I'm always sort of curious about what's happening and what's going on. Cause I'm a bit of a busybody, I think, but I'm also like,
See, I think of it as curation. I think of it as like
right.
All the cool stuff out there that's happening. No, you do. Like, and seriously, you guys, anytime I hear something and I'm like, I don't know what that is, I ask Julia. Including, okay, so here I'll out myself as being really old. I generally have to look up abbreviations.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, like text speak.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what I always have to Google that. Like when someone does a comment and they use an abbreviation, like obviously I know what LOL is,
right?
But like sometimes I just don't know.
Well, I also have I have 3 kids.
Yes.
My oldest,
so your finger on the pulse.
30, if you can believe that. I am his stepmom. But yeah, the oldest is 30 and the middle child is 26. And they're both very well, she's the most, I think, inclined to emoji speak. And my youngest is really on Discord. He's like super, like he'll talk as if he's texting. Like he'll come into the kitchen and say something and speaks in memes, or he doesn't. Rather than say yeah, he'll dab. He'll like. It's like, okay, I have to look that up. So yeah, in order to communicate with them, I have to sort of be slightly responsible to the Urban Dictionary. I should probably send them some money.
And do you ever kind of want to punch him?
Will?
Yeah.
The youngest? What do I want to do? I guess no, that's not my reaction to that.
Karen said, you can Google text speech. Who knew? Yeah, I do it all the time. I literally do it all the time. Someone will write like a bunch of letters and I have
drop into the search engine.
Zero idea what it means.
Right.
And like now I know what it is, but many years ago, L M A O.
You're gonna be careful.
LMAO.
You're gonna.
I had to look up.
Yeah, you have to trigger. You don't want to trigger your YouTube thing.
I know. I won't say what it means, but you all know what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I had to look that up. Oh no, at a teaching show, I will get lured into the bar, like by Carol and Brooke and Melissa, but mostly.
Yes, I have seen you there.
Yeah, you've seen in New York. I go. But mostly, what I want to do is put on my post-teaching pants.
Yeah.
Which I travel with. So post-teaching pants are larger and they're roomy. And my favorite thing to do post-teaching, first of all, is put my iPad up on a chair. If the toilet's not in a good position, I'll bring a chair into the bathroom. And I always, when I check in, I always ask for a room with a tub. Mm-hmm. And then I'll order room service. I usually get the room service up and I order a glass of wine or I travel with wine. And I'm going to answer that in a second. And I like to take a hot bath with a glass of wine and Netflix. And Marcia just asked, is this the same designer who's obsessed with that Prada sweater?
Marcia.
I don't know that obsessed. I think you go down rabbit holes of exploration. That's how I like to think of it.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as rabbit holes of structural exploration. Is it in there?
Well, some of it is. I mean, some of them are in here. I have a lot of them. They're all over the place. So, yeah.
So explain for the viewing public.
Okay.
in case anyone doesn't know.
Do I, oh, I wonder if I have like one of the original explorations here. I do not. So there a couple of years ago, so this is the stitch pattern in the current iteration. And this is the version that I am working on to share, to publish a sweater pattern for.
That looks bigger. Or is each shell bigger than the
No,
original?
no. Well, yeah. So this is a bulky sweater.
Oh.
This is knit in Barocco Mercado.
So it's not bigger stitch count, but it is bigger, yes, because
bigger yarn.
Bigger yarn.
Because it's a very fiddly pattern. Like the stitch pattern it's short rows, it's short row, ad infinitum, right? So I wanted to make to cover for a knitter to be able to cover as much ground as quickly as possible in the sweater that they would knit for themselves, right? So instant gratification, not instant gratification, but as close to the fastest sweater result as I could. So this is going to be a non-tailored, slightly oversized sweater. I think I'm going to put a big neck on it. I'm not sure, but
what kind of neck?
Drop shoulders, like a standing turtleneck, not a cowl, but like a big,
like the Audrey Hepburn one, maybe, like where I loved those necks, where it was sort of wider, off of a wider base, and then it stood up and kind of floated away from the neck.
The face. Yeah,
that's my favorite neck.
Yeah, that's what I want. And because it's as little shaping as possible, because it's kind of a relentless, it's a taskmaster as far as shaping is concerned. But it's just sort of a big square sweater, and it'll block out. It blocks out really nicely, actually. It's sort of funny how it's very dimensional.
But explain like what, in case
right, sorry.
In case folks don't know like what that means about obsessed with the Prada sweater, like how did this come to be?
So a number of years ago, increasingly years ago, Prada had a sweater that they sent down the runway that they had Eddie Redmayne model in their campaign. And the first time that most of the knitting world saw it, it was in the New York Times weekend magazine, and like everyone's head exploded. And there was a period in time when there's a lot of Twitter was not as big as it is. But there was a bunch of us on Twitter. We all kind of sort of somehow convened around this, and we spent the day that Sunday trying to figure out how it was constructed. And there were a number of people who waded into it, and we came up with a whole bunch of different ways of solving it. And a lot of people were like, well, that was fun, and they moved on, right? So, and this is something that we did a lot. Like there was some like Russian chart on Pinterest that we would be like, well, what does this mean? And then we would try to figure it out. And so we figured this out, and then everyone moved on. And a couple of us did not.
Almost everyone moved on.
Yeah, almost everyone moved on. Anna Maltz and I both got completely obsessed, and Anna made a teeny tiny baby sweater out of it. And I decided that I was going to make a full bore, like grown-up size sweater for my husband. And so I went to Harrisville and bought like one of every color that they had, which was a much more muted palette than the original one, because the original one was kind of clownish. It was lots of primary colors, and it was very loud. And I, 2 or 3 months later, I finished it. And I've not stopped knitting shells since then. I have published a pattern for a cowl and a hat set. I did a dog sweater for Kay Gardner's dog, Olive, in purples and greens and blues.
Was that the dog's color choice?
Well, Kay loves blue, right? I had never knit a dog sweater before, so that was kind of fun. Tricking Kay into giving me Olive's measurements was kind of fun. She was completely surprised when it showed up. What else have I done? And I've been trying to figure out how to share the sweater as a pattern for people so that it grades well, because that's the problem, is the shells get in the way of grading it across sizes. So I can do that sweater to fit me. I can do that sweater to fit somebody who's like a size 8, and I can do a sweater to fit somebody who's like a size 58, and that's it. Like that's the increment of sizing in the original sweater. And so that's it. which is why Prada didn't make it widely available. I mean, it was
Right.
one of those sweaters that it came, like, I think they did they had one version of it on Farfetch, and I think there were 10 of them, and they were all the same size. They were men's size medium.
Right.
Period. If you wanted it, you bought it for $4,000. If you didn't want it,
And
or
that's the thing about like,
you couldn't get it.
back in the day, every once in a while, if Vogue published a pattern that had basically 3 sizes, like small, medium, large,
Yeah.
it was for a reason. It's because like one of the famous ones was Nikki Epstein did this Intarsia thing, but it was like blown out. It was blown out from edge to edge. And
Right.
it wasn't like Intarsia where sometimes it's like start
Is
the
that the
chart
old
on
man one?
from here to here for this size, from here to here from this side, from it, because then the whole thing wouldn't work. The whole motif wouldn't work. And then Lily Chin told me once that sometimes when she drapes a pattern,
Mhm.
it's, you know, it's draping pieces and then unfolding them and then knitting those pieces. So she's like, I can't grade that. So I'll give it to Vogue. And I'm like, if you want it, that's a one size pattern and please to enjoy, you know, it's not like flat patterns. Oh my God, there's so many questions now. Patty, I love your sweater. Is it, oh, the one I'm wearing. Oh, the one I'm wearing, Mary? Yeah, this is the banding tee. It's fun because it's 2 different directions. So this is the cast on edge and it goes this way.
Right.
And then you pick up stitches and you do this. It's fun. It's like a super fast knit though, super fast knit. Oh, a funnel neck. Well, sort of a funnel neck, but not really, because a funnel neck is often knit without picking up stitches, just continuing to knit.
Yeah.
But this allows you to have like a shape neck. Like the picture that I always think about was Audrey Hepburn in
Is it in Charade?
Moon River. No, Moon River. Oh my God, brain broke. Truman Capote's story. He wasn't gay. They made him straight. They made it a romance. They ruined the story.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Breakfast at Tiffany. She wears a she wears like a wide neck.
Right. She also knits in that movie.
It is separate. What?
She also knits in that movie.
She knits. There was a blog back in the blogger days. Do you remember a blog called "I Accidentally Knit a Ranch House"?
Yeah, I do.
That's where the line comes from. So the line is in Breakfast at Tiffany. She's knitting, and it's this giant crazy thing. And she says to Fred, it's possible that she got her pattern mixed up with the architectural plans for the new house. So she might have accidentally knit a ranch house. And that became the name of a blog back in the blogger days.
Yeah.
It'll block out. Someone you got an LOL for it'll block out. Oh yeah, I'm with you with text speech. My sister does it all the time. Yeah, I actually, when people speak text speech, it does make me want to stab them in the eye with a needle. Like when someone is looking at you, first of all, and not, this is a thing that used to drive me crazy back in my stage manager days, whenever I would work with stand-ups, whenever I would work with Second City people. Comedians do this thing with each other where someone will tell a joke and they'll go, that is funny. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's funny. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah. Because they're analyzing it.
Yeah. They're not laughing. No. You know, so to me, someone going, oh, LOL. No, you're actually not. You're not L-ing or L-ing. You're doing neither.
Yeah.
Saying LOL, but you're not LOOLO. You're not, you're right. So I don't know. Comedy is too important to me for you to just say LOL. Like if you're not LOLing, don't say it.
Well, I think it's the comedians get stuck in that, I wish I'd told that joke.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think it's jealousy more than anything else.
Oh yeah. I remember this one actor that I worked with, David Pasquesi, who's a brilliant comedian, but also brilliant actor. Went on to great things. He played the husband in Veep. He killed me. But he used to say he'd do this Sunday brunch with other Second City comedians. And he said it was so exhausting because the whole brunch was the one-upsmanship, was everyone trying to,
Right.
up the other one. And he's the one who first told me about that. He alerted me to it. And then once I was alerted to it, I couldn't not see it. Be like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
He was the one who pointed that out. And once he pointed it out, I was like seeing it all over.
Do you know how many stand-up comedians it takes to change in a light bulb? 5. 1 to do the job, and 4 to stand in the back of the room and say, this guy sucks.
Do you know how many sopranos it takes to change a light bulb?
How many?
One, share the spotlight. that also works for tenors. I actually really, I like it for tenors better, because I do like, I likes me a good tenor joke.
Yeah.
Because those people are nuts. Tenors are just nuts.
Yeah.
Oh my God, when you asked how long these usually take, and I'm like, oh, 30 to 40 minutes, depending how long we chat. We've been chatting for over an hour. That happens all the time now.
Okay.
So now before I get yelled at by my husband, because we're going to go to, we have to go to the Kingston March.
Wow.
They do a march every week in Kingston, which we go to. And that I think starts at 5. So we got to get ready and drive there. So the embroidery sweater,
yes,
if we were keeping our eyes open for it,
yeah,
might we see a pattern?
Oh, the embroidery sweater is out. It's on.
It's out already?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, so I can link it in the. I didn't know it was out already.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, the purple one. Yeah.
Did you?
I told you I was thinking of doing something with all these guys.
I know, but I didn't know you had released the pattern already.
Yeah, so Wool Blossom's been released.
Okay, so now I'm looking you up here.
Right.
Did you say that on Instagram that it was released?
Yeah,
or you like?
It was the pattern was.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. I see it. It was June 10th. Oh, so it was pretty recent.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not that far behind.
No.
Okay, so it's on the Instagram, June 10th, right there in the middle. Okay, so I'll put a link to that.
Okay.
In the little show notes, and then maybe we'll get to see it as a class. Is that the situation we're hearing?
Definitely that particular technique and the way, so that the class is about, it's like when you embroider on a sweater like that, you can't hoop it, you can't use stabilizer, you can't use you can't really do an overlay because the scale is so big, right? It's just so many permutations. So I have this thing that I developed in how to sort of make sure everything turns out nice and even, especially if you're not an experienced embroiderer, because it looks like, it looks complicated. It's freehand. It's like, oh my God, it's like crossing Niagara Falls on a tightrope without a
What
balance.
was the first thing that you said? You can't use a what?
A hoop.
Oh, a hoop. Sorry.
To stretch it. Yeah.
Sorry.
All these different sort of ways to.
I thought you said coop, and I'm like, oh, what's that technique that I don't know?
Embroidery is kind of out of thin air, right? Or it looks like it's out of thin air. So I have this way of doing things so that it works out predictably and under control, and you're not having to guess constantly at what it is.
Yeah, because I was wondering that with the sweater, that if your hand is not even and you do one, and maybe one you don't notice, it puckers the fabric a little. Okay, now another one you don't notice puckers the fabric a little. But if you're puckering the fabric a little,
you're affecting gauge
all the way across. That would be a bummer.
That would be a bummer.
So you have a way that we don't do that?
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Anything else you want to share with us or tell us? Anything else exciting going on?
Yeah, I'm just working, like everybody else. I'm sort of knitting away.
Sheltering in place, doing our thing.
Yeah, doing our thing. Except
for when I put on a mask and get back out there on the street. Shelter in place, except for the times that I'm not.
Yeah.
But everyone, I must say, everyone is being really good about the masks. Like, and every single time I'm out there, every protest I've been to, every time I've been to any rally or march or anything, like, I'm amazed and impressed by the fact that everyone's wearing a mask. It was hot, hot one week.
Mine are becoming fashion statements. My daughter and I were talking about
I don't have good ones.
About getting your outfit up, right? I know I'm gonna wear this dress, so I'm gonna want gingham with that. So because I sew. So
I know I only have 2. So I just ordered another one, but my friend's getting married in July and I don't actually,
No wedding mask.
well, I mean, honestly, it's going to be outside.
Yeah.
It's in a park.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm going to talk to her about it this weekend. I don't know, like, are we wearing masks?
Sure.
Can
Yeah.
we just stand 6 feet apart and not, because it's July and it's going to be hot and we're going to be outside in the sun?
No, yeah, you send me your dress and I'll make you a mask for the wedding. There you go.
My dress is probably going to be a hand-me-down from the bride because she knows this is how I dress all the time. So I don't have any dresses. So the bride actually gave me a giant bag full of dresses.
Yeah.
So I'm heading back to Brooklyn this weekend, so I'll try them on.
Yeah.
I think I have some green color scheme ones. Did you see some of the articles about like like Zach Posen and the youngest, Christian Siriano.
Oh, converting his workroom to produce masks at the beginning.
But the fashion masks that they've done just to keep their own sanity.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. So they say, like, look, these are pieces of art. These are statement pieces. These are not like, because one is all like giant beads. So first of all, it probably weighs like a ton.
Right.
But they have ones with like feathers coming out.
Right. So Cornelia and I were talking about sequins and fringe.
Yeah.
Like a fringe off of it. And I was like, we can get really drag ball on this. We could have a lot of fun. But I said, it's all going to affect its washability. So we have to be.
Yes. No, these are like
their only thing.
Yeah. These are the masks for the masks.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Which is what the knitted ones are. Like you could put a knitted cover on top of your mask, right?
Right. Yes. I did see actually somebody talking about wedding masks, and they were beautiful crochet lace that were to be over a mask.
Right.
Like, with sequins and beading, and Laura Nelkin should do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Laura should do a lace beaded mask cover.
One of my favorite masks.
That's her jam.
In Boston, we have a project running winner. Her Instagram handle is Ann_Aaron. And she won Instagram or one Project Runway a couple of years ago. She's a wonderful young designer, and she has this beautiful mask. It's made out of pink gingham, and then it continues. So it's pleated, and then it continues. The bands continue back, and you get a big bow in the back with tails, and it's just magic. When I think she made 5 of them as fundraisers, like for
oh my god,
right, to fund her mask making initiative. But yeah, they're
amazing, really
beautiful. So I think in wedding masks, I'm thinking like, go big or go home, right?
All right. Yeah. We'll discuss.
If you're the
all right. Before I have to be good and leave, we have a question here from LIR, Long Island Railroad. I still want to know if LIR is Long Island Railroad. This says, Julia, any blocking tips for the Eddie wrap?
Oh, blocking tips. Sure. I mean, the Eddie wrap. So the Eddie wrap is a triangular top-down shawl that has the shells at the edges. So you knit a rectangle in garter, and then you end up with this border about this. What is that? I don't know. It's like 10 inches, 8 inches tall of stripes of these. And these can all be worked in individual yarns, or you can use Noro so that it does it yourself, or you can do it in stripes, whatever. So you end up with this scalloped piece. So I guess what you need to do, in terms of blocking tips, soak it for 20 minutes with a little wool wash and then squeeze it dry in a towel and put it out on your guest bed, and pin out the scallops so that they are articulated, and make sure the ends are really super pointy. Is that the kind of thing that they're asking me? Or blocking tips means sort of like,
yeah, like a good wet block.
A good wet, yeah.
Let it all relax up.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, each one of these, because of the short rows, each one of these get very, they get a little 3-dimensional.
Yeah.
Right.
Although honestly, I do kind of like
this
that.
bottom part here pops a little bit, like it.
Yeah.
And then this top part is pushed out a little bit by this, but it all blocks out really nice and flat. And actually, the gauge for this is about the same as stockinette. I promise you. The gauge is about stockinette. So when people ask me, well, how do I know if I can, they want to swatch, and they ask me about how to swatch for it. And I say, your gauge is going to be, because it's a back and forth knit. It's a ballpark, but your gauge is going to be about what it is for plain old stockinette. And it blocks out nice and flat. I mean, all
Now,
this sort of bumpiness goes away.
do you ever find that there's anybody that doesn't want to flatten it out, that likes the three-dimensionality of it?
So the hat,
'Cause I like the three-dimensionality.
right. So the hat, the Eddie hat I don't block them, because I like the dimensionality of it for a hat.
I like the natural proof. Oh, I was just going to ask you something. You reminded me of something. Oh man, it's right on the tip of my brain. Blocking thing, stock. God dang it.
Troy Donahue,
Ah,
the big sleep,
I was just going to ask you something.
Harbor, the mummies of Urumqi. What?
It'll pop into my head tonight, and I'll just text you in the middle of the night, which seems
Okay.
fair.
right.
All right. So you're going to send me the link to
Sarah Platt.
yeah, see, that's so you.
Blossoms.
Yes.
Yes.
It's so you, by the way.
What?
That I say, you're going to send me the link to, and do you think of a self-promotion thing? Like, yes, I'm going to send you the link to where you purchased my sweater. Or do you think about, oh yeah, I want to send you the link to that other person? Because that is very you. Because I mean, if I put the two of us into an activist bucket, I would say I go to the I'm an angry activist. I go to the place of like getting myself tied in knots, and you go to the place of pointing to all the wonderful people and art and cultures. And did you know about this? And did you know about this? And did you know about this book? And did you know about this person? Did you? They both are needed.
Yeah. Oh,
both
yeah.
are needed.
Yes.
Combining them would make a perfect person.
I think you're perfect just the way you are,
I
Patty.
think you're perfect just the way you are. But you are always a font of positivity and creativity, and a curator of. You bring a lot of cool people to people's attention, which is neat.
Well, there's always some oregano that can be added to the soup,
Ow, my shoulder just cracked in a way that was so loud that I'm glad my mic was over here, because I feel like my old body making a cracking noise would have actually been picked up on the mic.
Yeah.
So that was the pinning. Oh, just any help appreciated. The pinning came out pointy. Oh, do you mean like instead of using wires, you pinned lots of places, so you had like little,
one of those little scoops. You could pin 3
Can you
times in each scoop. I mean, it's a lot of pins.
But can you wire the side instead? Or do the sides end up straight?
No.
Oh, I see.
The sides they follow the logic of the scallop.
Oh, well then for that, have you ever used, because one thing I teach in my blocking video, which I love, have you ever used a wire that goes right? All right, hold on. I'm going to draw this.
Well, so you could do a wire through the lowest point of the scallop and then supplement it with
the highest
curve. Because it's curved, right?
So let me see if this makes sense. Okay, hold on. I'm going to sort of draw in my head. So do you have, whoops, no, how about choosing my pen first? Okay. Say you have like this situation, right?
Ooh, look at that.
So the blocking wire goes through the pointy bits.
Uh-huh.
The other thing is you can have those blocking bars.
To be clear on yours, so the above the scallop is the shawl, and below the scallop is not the shawl, right? Right? Is that what you're saying? So you're pinning on the points that are the shallowest part, and you're letting the scallops hang below the wires.
So is this the edge?
Yes.
The lower edge. Okay. So yes, then in that case, the wire goes here.
Oh, okay.
That's this is the outside edge, right?
Right.
And this is the shawl. Okay. Because the other thing is if you see those knitter blocks that have like a hole and a hole, and then they have all the little pins, right?
Oh, the combs. Yeah. Right.
The crochet cotton goes through the holes, and the crochet cotton goes through this edge. And then you can use the bars. You can like just lift up the bars and move them to
Ooh.
pull out the edging.
Okay.
It's just a fun trick that I teach in the my blocking video.
All the reason to own your blocking video.
Oh, and there's one more pen mark on my head. There it is. Clear, cancel, there. This is what happens when I forget to turn off the pen tool.
Yeah.
Like, so say my pen tool is still selected, and then I'm trying to move my camera for something, like I'm going to stand up and I do that. And I'm like, oh, drew on my face again. So I'm very professional. It's always soups profesh.
Yeah.
As we say in the biz, soups profesh.
All right.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm in trouble already because we've been talking.
Everyone. Okay. Thank you for asking me to be here.
Thank you so
much. Podcast. No one ever asked me to be on a podcast before.
Yeah, it's so funny that you call it a podcast because I don't think of this as a podcast.
Well, whatever.
So this was me 12 weeks ago, being in quarantine.
Yeah.
And I used to do a Facebook Live once a month. And a lot of people were leaving Facebook or didn't have Facebook and asked me to do it on YouTube. So then I had to figure out how to do it on YouTube. But then I went into quarantine and I was like, I'll just do it. I'll just like say hi every week.
Right.
I'll just like pop on and say hi. So it's not a podcast because there's no plan whatsoever.
Right.
Like Bristol wanted to know, like, do you have certain questions you want to ask me? I'm like, no, I never think at all.
Get on and talk.
There's no thought whatsoever. Like a proper podcast would have some kind of format.
Well, thanks for telling me because I have no idea.
It's just us babbling here with our friends who are like, joining us so that we're all not going insane, being
We're all knitting together.
Yeah, we're being apart, being together.
Yeah.
So Cheryl says, thank you. Thank you. All right, you guys, I will see you next week. And I think next week, fingers crossed, I'm hoping to have Tabitha from Long Island Yarn and Farm. And maybe we'll talk about animals.
I have some of her yarn.
But we still don't know because this is, there's like literally animals giving birth and all the time, and so she's kind of busy.
Yeah.
We don't actually know.
Stop with the fecundity. I have a podcast to do.
She's right. Oh, thank you. Charlotte says, love the informal nature. The informal nature is a super nice way of saying it's just me here.
What are you guys doing?
It's just me here knitting with you. Here, I'll give you a little peek. Here, this is where we're working on for the fall. This is the pullover. And then this is my little pocket swatch. And then I'll work on how to shape the neck on that board.
Oh, looking forward to that.
All right. Bye. All right. I'm going to say bye.
Bye.
I'll see you all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.